What's going on, everyone? Jim here. A lot of news going on today with Ubisoft surrounding the future of Assassin's Creed. If you're like me, you kind of love to hate this franchise. It's been a while since we've had anything decent. And we're going to get into that and a lot more today. But you're going to subscribe because I'm close to 4,000 subscriptions. I mean, look at how close I am. I'm like 3.9x. So give me some love tonight. Assassin's Creed, Jason Schreier first posted this, and then Ubisoft followed up with a blog article. So it's the talk of the town, okay? It really is. Not the non-event that was Hurricane Elsa. By the way, down here in Orlando, Florida, we got no rain, so we're fine. Thanks for asking. Jason Schreier writes, new, the future of Assassin's Creed is a live service. Ubisoft Montreal and Ubisoft Quebec have teamed up for an Assassin's Creed Affinity game, which is going to be a huge platform planned to have multiple settings. And he goes on to talk a lot about the working conditions of Ubisoft. I'm not going to focus on that here, but specific to the game. Traditionally, Ubisoft AC teams in Montreal and Quebec would have alternate projects. Montreal led Origins, Quebec led Odyssey, and then it was back to Montreal for Valhalla. Now that's changing, and both teams are teaming up to work on Infinity, which is years away, but is planned as a live service platform. Details on Infinity are still in flux and won't be out until 2024 or later, but it may be some sort of hub that allows people to play multiple AC games, both big and small. Or Ubisoft may say screw it and give up the trend. I hope they do the latter. Okay, so, and then he goes on to talk about some of the sexual abuse stuff that Ubisoft is unfortunately plagued with. They, being Ubisoft, then released a blog article this morning, basically saying the same thing, that they have a new cross-studio collaboration where it's going to be basically one giant Ubisoft, and it goes on to talk about all the people working there, how long they've worked on Assassin's Creed, and some of the other franchises that they've supported. Then they also talk about the joint production efforts from the other studios. This reads as like a resume, honestly. Talks about all these people, all these great games they've worked on. You've got this guy who worked on here since 2000. He's worked on Splinter Cell. He's worked on Far Cry. He's worked on Watch Dogs. This guy's been at the company for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. I think the key is this paragraph here. This change means we're also evolving along with the video game industry. This pandemic means working from home has fundamentally changed the way we produce video games. That's very true. Giving us a moment to reflect on our organization. Assassin's Creed was born within the walls of Ubisoft Montreal. However, clearly, it's kind of, as the rest of the article read, you're starting to see the other studios hand off back and forth. They go on to say that rather than continuing to pass the baton back and forth, we profoundly believe this is an opportunity to be an integrated and collaborative manner. Assassin's Creed has always been developed by multicultural teams with various backgrounds. We know there's always room for improvement. We believe this new structure will allow us to ensure that diversity and representation within our teams continues to grow and match. Okay, well, you know what? I'm interested on that part. If you look at Assassin's Creed through the years, this is from Metacritic. You got to take your own game with a grain of salt, right? Whether you like it or not. Assassin's Creed Origins, which came after the horrendous Assassin's Creed Unity, this was a rebranding of the franchise. Remember, this was totally different. This was RPG light. You had different gears, quest system, different combat system. This is a total overhaul of Assassin's Creed. This launched basically in tandem with the Xbox One X. It was, prominently featured there during the Xbox One X launch. I remember going to, fun little aside, Xbox Fan Fest, and I spent the evening with one of the developers of Assassin's Creed playing it on a development kit for the then Xbox Scorpio. Talking to him about all the pop-ins I saw, all the texture mapping that was wrong. Clearly they didn't fix it. But it's at an 81, which it's not bad. I think a lot of people were excited because it was something different. The story was not very good. The story is very bland. I remember quizzing Brent on this because Brent loved this game. And I said, Brent, can you name any of the main characters outside of Bayek? And he could not. So love you, Brent. But sits at an 81 Metacritic. Well, they took a little bit of time and they came back again not too long after with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which takes place in Greece, my homeland, right? where I'm from. My descendancy is from Greece. And I'm like, oh yeah, I love Greece. I love Spartans. I love fighting. I love 300. And this game was really just a reskin of Origins, except it took place in Greece. I really did like the protagonist in this one. I thought this was an interesting story. So much so I never beat it because it was heavily crippled by a lot of gating. You had to basically grind experience or pay for the Ubisoft Express Pass. More on that in a minute. To level up experience faster to enjoy the game. And I got burnt out after doing like the 30th raid between Athens and Sparta, and I still wasn't high enough level to proceed in the story, so I quit. But I did enjoy this one. Valhalla sits a little bit better. My wife and I beat this. This was kind of our PlayStation 5 launch game. Featured Eivor. Of course, the female variant is the true variant. And the story was interesting. It was very fragmented, although it did tell a somewhat compelling tale of Norse gods and kind of their reintegration back into society. And then they released the DLC, which I have yet to play because I did buy the collector edition. I wasn't that thrilled by what I saw in the first. And then this one was okay, but not so much that I'm even interested in playing this anytime soon. I think I'm burnt out on Assassin's Creed, as I think many of us are. Which leads us back to this and the rebranding of Assassin's Creed and the future of the franchise. Why did I mention Odyssey had these horrible loot boxes and not loot boxes, this horrible gating system? I think that was Ubisoft's first attempt at a live service. And when you think about a live service, when you think about what Jason Schreier talks about here, basically Ubisoft being a live service, you start thinking about things like battle passes, and you start thinking about gated progression because it keeps you coming back. Remember, a live service is meant to do one thing, to keep you coming back. And that's what The Division does very, very well. That's what Rainbow Six Siege does very, very well. That's what For Honor does very, very well. You get into the ecosystem, you start playing, you start progressing, you start leveling up, you want to come back and see what happens next. I mean, I'm hooked on Call of Duty. That's totally right now a live service. Warzone is. Hey, come back every month, check out the new map, buy the new skin, play the new level, buy the new battle pass, etc. They want to turn Assassin's Creed into that. So when you read this article as it is written from the development team from the Ubisoft website officially, this really makes it seem like, hey, this is great. Live service isn't really even mentioned here. This is really just about how we are collaborating emerging teams for the future of Ubisoft. You take that with what Jason Schreier wrote, and they have a very different story. I'll be really curious to see where Ubisoft goes with Assassin's Creed in the future. I know they have a couple expansions planned for this. I know Wrath of the Druids is the first. I don't remember the other two. Something with Ireland, I think. I don't remember, honestly. But they're all DLC. It will continue the story. It will progress the story. So they've got Assassin's Creed kind of on lock through the end of at least 2021 into early 2022. That leaves late 2022 for a potential new game, although I suspect they're going to milk this out for as long as they can. I suspect you will see more events, and I think this is the Assassin's Creed live service light leading into, inevitably, what Jason Schreier is saying will come in the future for this Assassin's Creed Infinite game. The question is, are you interested in this? Is it enough of a shot in the arm to make you excited to continue playing Assassin's Creed? And more importantly, will Assassin's Creed actually work in a live service environment? That's the question. I don't know that answer. I'm curious to see where it goes. I think the franchise is stale. I think the rebranding, which happened after Origins, has run its course, and I think it is time for a major course correction in Assassin's Creed again. This is exactly what happened last time when we kind of got burnt out on the old formula. Then they radically changed the formula. They spit out 3 games and a lot of expansions. 3 major titles since then. This formula is once again burnt out, and now we're back to the drawing board again. So leave some comments below. I will post links to the official blog and to Jason Schreier. Give him some love. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.